No, you can't make me. Hey, remember Just Dance? Of course you do. It's everywhere. I'm sure we're all sick of these games by now. However, I think Just Dance as a franchise has been overlooked. Now, I'm not here to blindly defend the series. It's far from perfect, but people tend to brush over that core idea behind the games, which is actually really cool and unique. I'm saying that Just Dance deserves more respect. In my eyes, 2000s gaming was home to first-person shooters and rhythm games. This was when video games were truly marketed to everyone, and I mean everyone. We were past the days of pledging our allegiance to Mario or Sonic, but not quite at the point where gaming is normalized. Much like how first-person shooters flooded the market, rhythm games followed suit. Dance Dance Revolution, Guitar Hero, Rock Band. Suddenly, everyone was musically inclined. Those times are definitely behind us. I don't see many people whipping out a dance mat nowadays, but Just Dance is that one franchise that's somehow still going to this day. Ever since motion controls became lucrative, the gaming industry capitalized on making people's bodies a controller. And of course, Just Dance was born out of this fad. While the other rhythm games hopped on the bandwagon early, Just Dance appeared on the scene relatively late, acting as a sort of bookend to this rhythmic era. DDR may have been the ancestor, but I believe Just Dance was the peak of this era. It's 2009. I was a hyperactive kid and still obsessed with the Wii. I was captivated by Wii Sports, played Mario Kart Wii religiously, and tolerated Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. I was fully on board with motion controls, so imagine my reaction for a dancing game where you yourself play by actually dancing with the Wii remote. I know it sounds trivial now, but back then it was so cool. When you're a kid, you're down to try anything. I don't know who even remembers the very first Just Dance on the Wii, but let's just say it's very dated. I'm not exaggerating. The menus were still in a 4:3 aspect ratio. It's a very 2000s design. You got the Windows Vista background, irregular rectangles, vignettes, the whole package. But as a kid, I didn't care. I was hooked, and so was my sister. We literally played hours of Just Dance. These games aren't typically meant for long sessions, but we played this game to death. And the best part is, you didn't actually need to be a good dancer to have fun. That was the magical part. The Blue Ocean strategy worked yet again. I know it's old news now, but I think Just Dance brought a lot of actual benefits to the market. Rhythm games in this era were very guilty of needing expensive peripherals that were useless outside of their games. But for Just Dance, all you need to play is the controller itself. It's truly pick up and play. No offense to DDR, but I don't tend to remember the songs because I'm too busy panicking about neon arrows. Plus, the songs I did know were remixes or covers of the original, so they didn't feel like the real deal. In Just Dance, the majority of the songs included were from the actual artists themselves. It still impresses me that so many of these record labels were willing to license these famous songs. Ever since the first game, they had a healthy mix of modern hits that would play on the radio and classic songs that your parents would know. I'm not gonna lie, I still like listening to popular hits. Well, the good ones at least. And during my childhood, my musical tastes developed from the radio. I wasn't that rebellious kid who would scoff at Taylor Swift and then go off and listen to Terrorcore or something. I would be jamming to Hot and Cold without the slightest clue of the context. So imagine my surprise when Just Dance's song list includes Hot and Cold by the Katy Perry herself. Well, it's the supposed chick version because we can't have curse words on the Wii. So when I saw it on the menu, the magical, "Oh, I know this song," kicks in. And when you're actually dancing to a song you know and love, your enjoyment skyrockets. Whenever I think of Hot and Cold, do I think of the music video? No, I think of the dance routine from Just Dance. I still remember it to this day. It also helps that the dancing experience itself works so well, and when you pick a song, it feels like you're stepping into its universe for a bit. I gotta give props to the costume and background designs. They truly tie everything together. The fact that Just Dance features human dancers gives this franchise huge leverage. In the past, rhythm games relied on digital models to serve as set pieces, because I assume choreography choreographing real-life people is more expensive and time-consuming, and they're usually not part of the main gameplay anyway, but here, dancing itself is the gameplay, and no amount of motion capture will be able to humanize dancing from an actual person, and that's what Just Dance excels at. Despite the wacky costumes and flashy backgrounds, it always feels grounded in reality. That's why games like Dance Central never felt as good. Animating 3D models may be comparatively more efficient, but it will never feel as realistic. Not only did this game enhance songs that I already knew, but it introduced me to new ones I wouldn't have known otherwise. I don't usually listen to songs that were before my time, but if I know any classic or international songs, chances are it's because of Just Dance. And while they won't be on my Spotify playlist, they'll still be memorable. I felt more open to songs outside of my bubble because at least I knew they were good enough to dance to. I mean, like, it's in the name. I know Just Dance isn't a difficult game, but there is something so addicting about aiming for 5 stars. It felt like something I myself could achieve for once. I may not know how to wave dash or perform skips, but I do know how to 5-star every song in Just Dance, so just saying. But beyond my addiction, it was one of those special community games where anyone who was able-bodied could participate. Well, anyone who was willing to make a fool out of themselves. I tend to forget how much of a workout Just Dance is, but wow, you will be sweating by the end of it. Granted, it's not hardcore training or anything, but this is the kind of exercise I hate the least. It's like Zumba, but with songs I actually care about. It's obvious that the majority of gamers don't care about Just Dance, but at one point in time, it was one of my favorite franchises, right there with Mario and Pokemon. So I just have a lot of random memories from the series that I'd like to share. I hope someone out there can relate. Back in my day, I would feverishly wait for the next installment of Just Dance to release. Yes, even though they released yearly, I still couldn't wait. When the series was new, they experimented with new features that I gobbled up every time. Like when they introduced extreme versions, I was like, whoa. When they introduced mashups, I was like, whoa! I was really easy to please. I don't know how many people have a favorite, but mine has always been Just Dance 4. That was like peak Just Dance era for me, and that's for one reason. Puppet Master mode. For context, along with the original dances, you also had versions that would combine dance moves from other Just Dance songs into a mashup, which is already really cool. But with Puppet Master mode, you were able to choose the next dance move in real time. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world as a 12-year-old. I would be that one kid looking up E3 2012 footage for Just Dance 4 of all things. The problem was, it was exclusive to the Wii U. Yup, not gonna lie, I was ready to buy Nintendo's future disappointment for this one dancing game, but I wouldn't get my Wii U until 2014, so I had to settle for the Wii version. Now this is gonna age me. Remember Wii Points? The thing you'd spend real money on to get like virtual console games? Yeah, I spent it on Just Dance DLC. That's right, DLC for the Wii. That almost sounds impossible. You know how Just Dance games go on sale like weeks after they release? Yeah, I was that idiot who would pay full price because I literally could not wait. I cannot overstate how much of an obsession it was. When I wasn't playing the actual game, I would look up the same Just Dance songs on YouTube, and you best believe I was memorizing those dance moves like they were gonna be on the test. I was also real jealous of people who had Just Dance on the Kinect. I'm sure that accessory was useless 95% of the time, but for a dancing game, immaculate. I needed it, but I never got it, sadly. Did you know that there were Japanese exclusive Just Dance games? Yeah, me neither. But when I discovered Just Dance Wii on YouTube, I was blown away. As you can guess, they feature Japanese songs. And let me just say, the skill gap between the Western and Japanese versions is massive. Here's a typical Western Just Dance routine. And here's one from the Japanese Just Dance. Like, what? Are we really that incompetent? Even the extreme versions seem easier by comparison. Maybe one day I'll get to try them, but it's just so interesting how global Just Dance became. I could go on and on about the memories, but as with any phase, I eventually grew out of it. As someone who still rewatches old Disney Channel shows to this day, it's rare for me to move on from something I loved in my childhood. I played almost every Just Dance release up to 2016. I was committed and not ashamed of my collection, but I grew tired of the gimmick. It really felt like the tail end of the Wii craze, and when you play the same type of game year after year with little innovation, you can imagine how the obsession starts to fade. After a while, the dancing begins to feel stale and homogenized, and I can no longer ignore the really cringy dance moves. I still have not forgiven the flossing, more memes, more Disney soundtrack tie-ins, creepy CGI. They were cashing out, but they were also starting to lose me. Plus, I was growing up. At some point. I was in high school by the time I stopped playing. Just Dance was right before I became really self-conscious about myself. To be fair, I feel like high school basically teaches you how to be self-conscious, so not really my fault. But I was sad that I couldn't express my Just Dance passion like I used to, and when I play it now, I just feel too old to play it. And this is coming from someone who still plays Pokemon to this day. Let's be real. I fell in love with Just Dance because that was back in 2009, but we are very far from that era. Now we have an overwhelming selection of honestly much better games to play, even better rhythm games. Beat Saber seems to be dominating these days. By today's standards, I don't see the franchise lasting forever. Don't get me wrong, they've been making strides to improve the whole package, like dynamic camera angles, creative costumes, and more elaborate backgrounds, and it seems like they're finally updating their business model by announcing Just Dance 2023 edition, which looks suspiciously like a streaming service, basically replacing yearly releases by constantly updating this one. This franchise seems to be doing just fine, though I don't see myself investing more time or money into this. But there is one thing from the modern installments that genuinely made me smile. Remember Hot and Cold from the first Just Dance? Katy Perry had a trend of her songs appearing in every Just Dance game from the very beginning. She dominated the late 2000s and early 2010s with dance tracks, so it makes sense that they fit so well into the Just Dance series. And it also helps that I loved dancing through all of her hit songs. Firework, California Girls, Dark Horse, the list goes on. But one hit song was oddly left out for the longest time. Last Friday night, it seemed like a no-brainer, but year after year, it was yet to be Just Danceified. That is, until Just Dance 2022 finally included this song, and it was glorious. The developers knew longtime fans were begging for this to happen, so they crammed as many references to past dancers as they could. Not only that, most of the coaches were also from Katy Perry songs featured in past Just Dance games, and the main dancer gets to copy their iconic dance moves throughout the song. How cool is that? To a random person, these are just random characters, but for people like me, it felt like one giant love letter to longtime fans. And you know I'm a sucker for Easter eggs. I was like, oh, that's a Hot and Cold lady. That's the firework lady. That's all of them flossing. Never mind. I hate this series. But anyway, it genuinely melted my heart seeing this. I'm so glad that after all these years, they kept this nod to the original fans in this corner of the game. I felt seen. As for the future of Just Dance, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. I mean, as long as music is still alive, there will always be something for Just Dance. That part will never be a concern. I get that it's hard to appreciate a franchise that never goes away, but what about when motion controls are fully dropped and these games can't be produced anymore? Maybe it can continue with VR or the mobile app, but there will be a point in time where people will legitimately be nostalgic for Just Dance. Maybe it's already happening. You can have your deep RPGs, your competitive titles, your precise platformers, but this franchise is just as valid. Yes, it can feel very shallow, greedy, and cringy at times, but at its core, I see a game with a mission to bring anyone together and have fun. Hasn't that always been the goal of casual games? They exist to help help form bonds with people that we wouldn't have interacted with otherwise, and Just Dance excels in that every time. As for me, I probably won't be as obsessed with it as I used to be, but I can always pick up my Wii Remote and just dance whenever I need to feel carefree again.